You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Cornflake.
So we host the Flopcast.
We cover nerd and geek subjects of all types, but this is sort of a sillier, goofier side of geekdom, I'd say.
We love to talk about music, especially funny music.
We talk about comic books, conventions,
Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh yeah. I'd say if you're going to put the Flopcast in Brady Bunch terms, we're like the cousin Oliver of podcasting. And we do a ridiculous new Flopcast episode every week.
What is wrong with us?
We really have nothing else to do. We're part of the Earth Station 1 podcast network.
And you can find us at flopcast.net.
Hello and welcome to the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. I am your host, The Monster, doing a different type of podcast that I've done in the past. I'm going to be talking about the passing of Prince. I want to talk about his music. I want to talk about his memories as my way of making a tribute to him. Now, when this all happened, when I got the news, I already had injured my back and I was in bed and my wife had told me. And I felt kind of like in disbelief that this had happened because, so far 2016 has not been a great year for a lot of celebrities that I've admired and had followed through the years. And even this morning when I'm doing this podcast, the legendary and the greatest boxer of all time, Muhammad Ali, had passed. So, I've said before, yes, people die every day. There are some who matter more than others, only because of what we put on those people that are part of our lives, or we bring them into our lives. Prince, to me, is one of those people that his music really has played a big part in my life. And I wanted to kind of do this podcast for some time, and I could not get this to be shared with my cousin, who is a big Prince fan. So I'm sorry that we couldn't get our schedules together. But this is would have been one of those great times to actually have done this. But nonetheless, I go forward and get this tribute done. So I'm not sure how to really talk about Prince. I'm not a music aficionado. I can only talk about my memories and my thoughts about certain things. So I'm just going to talk about briefly the tribute that happened on May 28th with Madonna. Then I'm going to talk about Prince's work with the release of certain albums. And then basically I'm going to end with kind of like a top 10 or 11 Prince songs that I've liked. And right off the bat, a lot of the songs that are on this list, and my cousin Ralph would agree, and his list is also similar, is that we really didn't pick the big hits that he was famous for. And a lot of people keep playing over and over again in his tribute is like Purple Rain. So it was kind of great that, one, Madonna was able to do one of Prince's songs, Nothing Compares to You, but it was originally, it was done by Sinead O'Connor, and there was a group called The Family that Prince also started that sung too, if I'm remembering correctly. So when I heard the song, or rather when I heard there was a backlash about how flat and how meh the song was and how she delivered it. Until I saw it for myself, that's when I kind of like, okay, it's not the greatest version of that song. And it's not that I would not have wanted Madonna to be there. In fact, Madonna's probably the best person to make a tribute to Prince, only because they did a song together called A Love Song. And it was on Madonna's Like a Prayer album, which, again, Madonna was huge in the 80s, and so was Prince, so it was kind of like, this cool team-up of these two music artists singing together. Now, it wasn't a great song, and I don't ever believe it was even released as a single, like a big hit, or even anything like that. But for me, I liked both artists, so unfortunately, it didn't come off that great. But that's her version, that's her tribute. She lives with it, and that's how I'm going to go forward from there. I'm doing my own version, as well as anyone else is welcome to do their own tribute to Prince. So there's no perfect way, there's no exact way to do this, but you just do something that means something to you. And for her, singing that song, Nothing Compares to You, was her tribute. Now, she does bring out Stevie Wonder at the end, and they do Purple Rain, which again, by this time, I should say, it's already been done too many times. Not that I didn't love Purple Rain, but it's almost become like this defining moment that's what makes Prince, is that one song. Granted, he won an Oscar for his work for Purple Rain, for Best Original Song, but enough. I'm done. So let's go forward. So for me, I didn't get into Prince until the early 80s, and that was with the 1999 album that came out in 1982, which he did Little Red Corvette, and 1999, of course. So those were the very big hits for him that caught my eye. And from that point on, I was really kind of interested to see what else he had done, and that's when I discovered, wow, this guy is really out there with his music and his lyrics, and the fact that he can do this all by himself practically is amazing. So I really took a lot of what he said to heart, and I loved his message, even though I'm not a big follower of any particular religion. That's something that does play throughout his career, is this love of God, and then may one day we all live to see the dawn. So he was very inspirational at times, but he was also very sexual at times. So growing up and listening to all this, it was interesting dynamic between his messages and within one person. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But for me, again, going back to the Purple Rain album, which came out in 1984, really was, to me, a big deal, not only for me personally, because I loved that movie to begin with, and it was a perfect showcase for Prince, and that album was phenomenal. But also, in my, I think, junior year in high school, the ending song that they did, or at least one guy did, for the talent show, was that he did the lip sync to Purple Rain, which, that person, I forget his name, had just lost his mother. So, in fact, him performing this lip sync thing at the very end, and him going through the motions of being Prince, wearing the purple coat with the silver studded, shoulder thing. And he was into it, and I'm like, I actually believe that he was Prince. But again, you believe those moments because you're in those moments. And listening to his songs over and over again throughout the years, and even recently, it brings back all those wonderful memories that I've had, when I was in school or out of school or not in love, in love. So it's a soundtrack that I can live by or revisit at any time. So 1985, we have a different song, or a different album, I should say, that's a different style altogether. It's not like a repeat of Purple Rain. It's practically 180 degrees the opposite way, which is completely different, but it's still Prince. And this is where it gets to be, there's something great about him. There is no limit to his talent and his experimentation, because this is completely not the funk and the overly sexually lyrics, but a completely different take on what he does with his music. And I really dug it. And again, I can't go into more details other than that, because I can't, and I wish I could put it in better words than I'm saying right now, so I do apologize. But Around the World is one of my favorite albums. But let's go into 1986, in which Prince did another movie called Under the Cherry Moon, and this soundtrack was called Parade, which is another album that he did for the soundtrack. Also a fantastic score to do this movie. The movie is abysmal. You can just forget about it. But visually, if you watch it, one, it's in black and white. Two, Kristen Scott Thomas, this is her first movie, so if you know of her, that's her first movie appearance. So, plus the music, it gets under you, not under like the Cherry Moon, but it gets into you as you're watching it. And it's not perfect, but it's a wonderful piece of movie magic between, you know, an artist and his music, and something that's now visually ingrained into a story. So it was great to see that. And from there, 1987, we get Sign of the Times. Again, this is me going into college, and we're having a lot of discussion about what was going on, like the Challenger had blew up, AIDS was big out there. So again, he has his way of keeping his music in touch with what is going on of those times and really commenting on things like that. And Perfect Song, again, the first one of that track, Sign of the Times, is talking about all those things. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up was the number 6 track, which is called Starfish and Coffee. Prince had originally appeared on the Muppets Tonight, the not the latest incarnation of the Muppets, but the one before, in which Prince was a guest on there, and he was talking about how inspirations come at any place or anywhere, and the Muppets were talking to him about this, so they started to kind of look a little music video of this song, Starfish and Coffee, and it's a beautiful video. So if you have not seen it, I'll try to put the link on there. But again, having Prince and the Muppets, you really couldn't do anything better than that. And I love Starfish and Coffee. And finally, 1988, Love Sexy. This is the one and only time that I actually got to see Prince in concert. And this is when I was still living in New York. And Love Sexy was fantastic. I loved everything about it. I only had like 2 pictures, of Prince. That was the only time I had, my moments of closeness to him. And of course, this is before cell phones having cameras and all that. So I had to sneak in my camera to get those 2 pictures. But, I have those pictures somewhere. I have to find them though. All right. So 1989, this is going to be big for me because why? Because Batman, the Michael Keaton / Tim Burton movie, was finally made. Prince did music. Danny Elfman did the score. And at the time, it was a big dispute as to who really created the music. And there had to have been kind of like a clear distinction between the two. Because while Prince did write music, there were songs, then there was only a few songs. Electric Chair. The Future you hear in the very beginning of the opening scenes, very low, but not much more than that. Party Man, which Jack Nicholson as the Joker is dancing his ass off, and I love that. So I love that song for that reason. Trust, another scene later on in the movie in which Joker is doing the parade and before he kills everyone with the laughing gas. And then Scandalous, which I use in the promo a couple of weeks ago for this Prince podcast. Scandalous doesn't appear until the very end of the movie and in the credits. So basically, there's not much there to say that Prince really is the heart and soul. Danny Elfman is. That score is as comparable to John Williams' Superman score because it's very distinct, it's very clear, and everything since then has been similar in tone and how those Batman themes really play through. And the other thing I completely forgot, the Bat Dance. The very thing that Prince worked on and was perfect at, making the Bat Dance video in which he was half Joker and half Batman. That was so damn cool. Unfortunately, it never appeared in the damn movie. Go figure. But still, I have the soundtrack, which is all of Prince's song, and I had Danny Elfman's score of Batman. They're both perfect together. There's not going to be one better, but, you know, we had Batman. That's all I care about. All right. The next movie was 1990, The Graffiti Bridge. Basically, the sequel that no one really asked for to Purple Rain was made. So, unlike Under the Cherry Moon, which it's watchable, this movie is completely forgettable. You don't really need to worry about watching this movie to see what happened to these characters because it's nonsensical. Just listen to the soundtrack and it's a much better time that you will have. So after that, we get Diamonds and Pearls, which happened in 1991. And then 1992, Prince changes his name sort of to the symbol or the Love Symbol album, which kind of makes that weird transition, which I'll talk about in a moment. The first song in love of that is called My Name is Prince, and then Sexy MF, which is another great song. So I really dug his attitude because he started to add rap into this genre that he's been always producing, but it was just like, again, evolving and doing things that are a bit different. 3 Chains of Gold is one of my favorite songs just because it's very, very reminiscent of the Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody song. So, and then come to 1994. This is where things kind of change a bit for Prince only because of what he has been dealing with. I guess at the time was Warner Brothers and a contract dispute. Come was an album that was just very blah, very meh. It didn't do much for me, and there were other albums after that also was it didn't do much. And then and when I did the research for this, I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. It's because he was trying to basically get himself out of the contract by producing as quickly as he can these albums. So Come was kind of a disappointment. The Black Album, which was rumored for years being bootleg back in the days when you had cassettes and such. But finally, when it was released, there really wasn't much to it anymore. It didn't really have that lure, the mystique that was Prince. It's another album. It didn't really sing to me. 1995, we do get The Gold Experience and the P Control song I love tremendously, which I'm not going to say that right now, but if you know what that song is, I love that song. 1996, we have Girl 6, which is a soundtrack that he did not write, but Spike Lee, for this movie, did use Prince's music. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Pink Cashmere was a brand new song for this movie, but I could be wrong. So please correct me if I'm off track. After that, Chaos and Disorder, something I did not even register with because I had no idea that it came out. Emancipation, I did buy because it was a 3-disc set, and that was basically his Liberation CD from Warner Brothers, so he was no longer the slave that he kept saying he was. 1998, Crystal Ball, I didn't win anything for me. I never even considered buying. So towards the latter half, Prince was still relevant to me. I still listened to his older stuff, but this newer stuff really didn't get to me. 1999, The Vault, Old Friends for Sale. didn't work at all for me. Raven to the Joy, fantastic, which is another album that came out. Again, 1999, I remember just playing that New Year's Eve, $39.99 access to cable to watch his party on New Year's Eve for $19.99. Of course, he ends the whole concert in 1999 fashion. So it's really the older stuff that I was really digging, but not so much all this newer stuff. 2001, Rainbow Children, unfortunately, went completely off my radar. And 2002, One Night Alone, another one that was off. 2003, Expectation. So again, at this point, I'm just like, I'm not getting any of this. There was another one called News, News. And 2004, Musicology. Again, I'm still focusing on the earlier stuff. None of this is really working. We had the Chocolate Invasion, the Slaughterhouse. Not until 2006, 3121, the second track, Lolita, was, for me, a great song. And I think, if I remember correctly, that was something that he played on... what is that show that got canceled? Oh, I'm blanking out right now. American Idol. He was, towards the end, they have other bands come in to play towards the big finale, and then he started playing Lolita. And I'm like, oh my God, Prince is back. And that song in the very beginning with this guitar really wailed, and I love that. Planet Earth got me back because of Guitar, the second track on that album. Again, he really, really does a great job in that song, and it's simple, and it goes back to his roots, and that guitar really sings. 2009 kind of lost me for a bit. We have the Lotus Flow, 3R MPL sound. So didn't work for me, I'm sorry. And 2010, we get to 2010, nothing there, unfortunately. 2014, I cannot pronounce Pekka Lectrolutrum. I can't pronounce his album. But the last one that I actually did buy and love was the Art Official Age. And Breakfast Can Wait was a favorite track of mine. And then after that, 2015, Hit and Run Phase 1, Phase 2, didn't do anything. So there are a lot more things that he produced, co-wrote, that other people sung, which I'm not going to get into because I'm kind of running out of time and I don't want to go into that. I just want to get into the top 10 songs that I think are my favorite, and I'm going to play out the last song as number 1 on the podcast in the background. So starting off with number 10, one of my favorites. Again, these are not songs that you would consider to be big hits, but because of how I've learned to love Prince, these are great songs nonetheless. So again, going back to Guitar was my number 10. I talked about Lolita. That was my favorite. Number 9. Now, this came out before in the 80s as a single, but it was later put onto the collection, like the B-sides. For the B-side to Let's Go Crazy, Erotic City, that he did with Sheila E. That was a great song. It's simple, and it's... When they're saying funk until the dawn, I thought, what are they saying? Because that didn't sound like funk until the dawn on the radio, but that's why I love it, because of that reason. Then we have Dolphin. Again, I talked about that. It's one of my favorites. And then the P Control. And then we have Batman, which is, again, Party Man, one of my favorites there. And Sign of the Times, I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man. That song played when I was on campus in Brooklyn. And in the student center, there was a band doing that cover to that song. And I'm walking by and I'm hearing the guys sing. And it was almost kind of like a Jamaican version of that, and I was just like, wow, that's so damn cool. But I've always loved that song. Then we have The Beautiful Ones in Purple Rain. Beautiful Ones kills me every single time. Only because it reminds me so much of what I was going through growing up in the 80s, having a friend that you were really in love with, but the other person never saw you more than just that, or a brother in that sense. But yeah, The Beautiful Ones get you every time. So the last two is from the Parade album. Sometimes It Snows in April, which in high school I was doing some kind of career day event for a junior high, and as I was leaving that junior high school, it was in April and it was snowing, and I had my Walkman, and it was a perfect moment. Again, I talked about this in the last podcast about not recording stuff. I just wanted to be in that moment. And of course, back then, I didn't have much in the way of recording like we do now. But it was a perfect moment of just hearing Prince singing Sometimes It Snows in April, with it the actual day being snowed in on April. And then Olivia Wilde tweeted out one of the lyrics to that when he had passed away, which I retweeted, and it was amazing. So, and the last song, to me, it's the best song that I love about Prince, and it kind of is more in the upbeat way I want to end things, is Mountains. So it's a great song. It's very uplifting, and it's a good combination of lots of different sounds that I've enjoyed him doing. But I just, because that song comes at the end of the movie, in which his character Tracy had passed, it was, to me, it makes sense to have this song be number one, because of Prince passing. That was the song that he would have possibly done as, him being an artist. So I wish I could do a better job in describing how he has meant to me, but as you've just heard some of my feelings, my memories about, the times I've heard Prince throughout my life, he has meant a great deal to me, and meant a lot of great other people. So on that note, I don't want to sound sad. I don't want to sound upset. But, for me, with everything that's going on and the times that we live, just like I'm sure someone in the generation before me and so on, and the generations after me and so on, are going to have these moments in which they're worried about what's going to happen next with the future. Some people say don't worry about the future. Some say just be in the moment. And that's where I'm trying to be at. I'm trying to be here in the moment. So whenever I'm doing stuff at a given time, I'm there. If I'm out to dinner with you, I'm not checking my cell phone unless I don't want to be there. But I'm in the moment. And that's probably the best thing that I can tell you, and for me, is just to be there. If you're having feelings for someone, or you want to be with someone, life is too short if they don't want to be there, or vice versa. So, but when that does happen, just be in the moment. Enjoy it. Have those memories, because it's one thing to record it, it's one thing to record it in your mind and in your heart. So, on that note, thank you very much for listening to the Monster Sci-Fi Show and my tribute to remembering Prince. So, I would love to hear from you. If you have any of your thoughts, your favorite songs, please email me at monsterscifishow@gmail.com. As always, thank you very much for listening. Sci-fi from a certain point of view. Good night.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network, your station for all things geek, classic, current, and beyond. Be part of the crew at ESONetwork.com.